In this video, we're going to show you to install the expansion tank on your Nissan Frontier located underneath your hood. Remove our battery. Going to use our 10mm wrench here. Loosen up the anchoring nuts. Spin that off and do the same for the positive side here. Twist that and just pop that off. Next, we want to go ahead and loosen the J-hook nuts here. We're going to use some rust penetrant on these here. Now, our bracket is already kind of loose, just kind of wobbling around. That's the way it came in, but it should be tight holding that battery down. Loosen up the 10mm nuts. Remove the bracket, set that aside. I'm going to remove our J-hooks from both sides and set those aside. Go ahead and lift out that battery, set that aside. Now I want to go ahead and remove this fuse block right here. There's a 10mm nut right here, or bolt. And then there are retainer clips right here. We want to go ahead, and this is going to allow this to come up and out. We also want to separate this electrical connector right here from this unit, and that'll allow this unit to come free. I'm going to use a small flathead screwdriver right here. It's a little pocket screwdriver. You can use something a little bit smaller than this if you want, but we're going to come over here. And there's a tiny little tab inside here. We're going to reach down right between the connector and the block. Just wiggle it in there a little bit and then pull up. That'll allow this to come off separate from this. And we have our electrical connector here. We're going to separate and disconnect this here. It's going to make it easier for us to get to the tab down inside here. So right here, you want to press in on this tab. You can press in on it with a finger and then just put your little pocket screwdriver right here and work that up and out. Now with that separated, this is key because now you need to get down to these two little tabs. There's a little lock tab here. You can use a pair of needle nose pliers, or you can use your little pocket screwdriver and just bend in these little tabs. We're using a 90-degree pick to go down, and inside there's going to be two little tabs that are securing this harness. So what we're going to do is push in on these two little tabs and pop that out. You can see right here those two little tabs we were pushing on. It's going to allow us to go ahead and set that aside. There's a 10mm bolt right down here. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove that. Now between these two fuse boxes here, there is a tab down below, right in the middle. So I'm just going to use a 90-degree pick. You can use a small flathead screwdriver if you want, but you're going to go down, get up against that little tab and push it inward. You're going to push it towards this block here and then lift up. Wiggle that up and over like so. Now once we have that fuse block, just kind of push back aside here. I want to go ahead and remove this bracket, and underneath this wiring harness is a 10mm. We're going to use our gear wrench. Go ahead and get underneath that. Now you could always cut this anchoring strap right here and re-secure it later on. But if you want to leave that attached to the bracket, that's fine. Just use the gear wrench like we are here. Using a 21mm socket, go ahead, loosen and remove your lug nuts. Go ahead and grab that wheel. remove it and set it aside. Our fender liner is broken on the inside, but if yours is not, loosen and remove the two 10mm bolts here and here. Phillips head screwdriver. If you have mud flaps on your vehicle, loosen these three. There's a fourth one just on the other side, on the bottom side of the fender. We're going to loosen and remove that. On the front side of the fender liner, there would normally be a screw here. Ours is missing. Follow it up. And there's going to be another one right here. Loosen and remove that. Once that's out, you're going to come on up. There's normally a retainer here. And then one right here. Ours are both missing. And just going to come on back. And there's a plastic retainer button right here. We're going to use our trim tool to go ahead and pop this out. Pop out the center. And pull out that button. Just kind of work the fender liner out. Work it from the inside of the fender and pull that out. With the liner removed, you're going to locate the hole where we just removed the bolt from up top, and just to the other side there is a nut here we need to remove. We're going to use our 10mm. Go ahead and spin that off. Now once you remove that, you should be able to push that bracket up. On the other side, you can see that moving. Now with that bracket removed, there's a 10mm bolt right here and one on the other side. Use our extension. Loosen and remove these two. Go ahead and set those aside. I want to go ahead and remove this module next. So I'm going to grab this cover and just gently wiggle it upward. You're going to undo this little retainer clip right here. Set that aside. Now this module here has a wiring harness that runs on the back side of this box. That's why we have to remove this, because that bolt is down below that wiring harness. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and pop this cover off here. There's just little spring clips here with a little spring button, one on both sides. Pop that off, set that aside, and we'll go ahead and just bring this over here. On the top of the module, there is a 10mm bolt right here. I'm going to loosen and remove this. Now I'm going to use my 10mm socket and ratchet. I'm going to come down here. And I'm going to jam my hand down inside here to try and hold the ratchet on the bolt head. Now you can see the bolt head if you look down between the front side here, going down inside. Now once that bolt comes out, I was able to drop it down, use my magnet to go ahead and pull that out. And there we have that. Pull that up and over. That should give us a little bit more room to get to the back side of this fuse block here, to the 10mm bolt. On the inside here, I'm going to use the mirror, and you can see the bolt right there on the back side. We're going to use our 10mm gear wrench to reach around the back side and remove that last 10mm bolt. Let's go ahead and get to it. All right, so this is kind of a tight fit down here as well, but we have our short 10mm gear wrench on there, spinning that off. Let's go ahead and loosen that all the way. See if we can get our hand back there and remove that. All right, there we go. Now once we have that bolt out, let's go ahead, kind of move some things here. Let's go ahead and separate our ECU unit here. We're gonna press down on this lock, flip this back, and that'll release that harness. Pull that off, and we're gonna do the same over here. Push down on this little tab, and then flip this bar back. Set that aside. There's a 10mm bolt right here for this bracket. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove that. Our next step, we want to go ahead and remove, there are 3 10mm bolts securing our expansion tank. There's going to be one right here, and then there's going to be 2 holding the unit to the fender well. Now on our particular model, there is a wire tie here. There's probably going to be a plastic button or retainer or something securing these 2 components together. So go ahead and remove that button. And then we're going to go ahead and remove this 10mm bolt right here. There's one right down on the front here. Then there is another one right over here between the washer fill and the reservoir. The hose on the bottom runs underneath our fuse block here and then goes over to the engine side. So there's a little bit of a process to get that out. What we're going to do is we're going to start by removing the front hose here that runs all the way over across the cooling fan assembly and then up to the radiator cap. Let's go ahead and do that now. If you're doing this job and you're replacing the whole unit with the hoses as we are, you really don't have to worry about clamps. Go ahead and just cut them off. You can go ahead and just cut those hoses and not deal with clamps or anything like that. This is just going to make it easier for me to pop this off like that. Follow this around the retainers. On the back side here, there's just some plastic wire ties securing that in place. Just pop it out of the clips along the top of the fan assembly. Gently work that off the radiator. Go ahead and work that hose out. Now, if you have coolant in the expansion tank or reservoir, remove the cap. We're going to use a vacuum tool here to go ahead and pull this out. You can use a turkey baster or something like that. But we just want to remove as much as possible so that it doesn't spill as much when we take this apart. Once we disconnect that hose off the back side. Now we're going to use a small pry bar here, and we're going to gently pry it. You can see the metal pipe here is in a plastic clip, so you just want to gently pry that out and pop that out. And now it's kind of a juggling act of pushing and pulling, trying to get lines separated. Now where hose comes down and up and over to the back here, you can actually see there's a clip right on it there. Using our pliers, this is a standard hose clamp. Loosen that and just wiggle it up. Work it up the hose. Then go ahead and twist that off. Make sure you twist it pulling upward. Do not bend it left or right because you don't want to break the plastic connector that it's attached to. There it is right there. So at this point, we're going to start to work this around. Here we go. Pulling this through. I'm going to push this down. It goes underneath our harness here. So you're just going to finagle the hose down. Now you want to pay attention that the hose goes underneath the electrical bulk harness here. You're probably going to lose some coolant from the hose. Not that big of a deal. If you want to have a catch can underneath to catch some of that coolant, that's probably ideal. Runs underneath the bracket, underneath the harness, and then pull that out. And there we go. Take the new component, take the hose end, goes underneath the fuse block, underneath the harness. Push that through. Now we're able to pull our hose up over here, so just kind of tuck that off to the side and continue to hold up the fuse block, push the tank into place. What I'm going to do now is line up the metal hose down inside here and pop it into the retainer in the fender well. Make sure all of these fit into place. At this point, we're now going to install the 3 bolts securing the expansion tank. Getting these bolts started by hand. Get these 2 upper ones started. And once we get those in, we're going to do our 3rd and last one down below, and then we'll snug those in. Now that we have all 3 of these started, let's go ahead and snug them down. Now I'm just going to run these in with my hand ratchet. It's just a reservoir tank or expansion tank, plastic to metal, so we just want to gently snug these down into place. So once that bottoms out, just give it a little bit more. And we'll do the same for the last one up here. Okay, our expansion tank is secured. So now I want to go ahead and take our fuse box here and just kind of move this out of the way and bring our hose over and use our pliers to open up that hose clamp. Slide this, oh, didn't want to slide that clamp off. Slide this hose down and on. Push it all the way down until it's fully seated here, and then go ahead and work that hose clamp down and on. We have our main fuse block right here. I want to go ahead and line up the holes for the mounting on the inside of the fender liner. Now, for some reason, if you can't get them to line up, the first thing you want to take a look at is on the side where the expansion tank is. Follow the aluminum hose down and make sure that it's fit into the bracket on the side. If it's not fit in there, it's going to cause the fuse box here to not line up or move over. So go ahead and make sure these line up. I am going to get the 2 forward bolts started. That's going to help the box itself line up. So now I can take the 3rd bolt. I need to reach down around the back side here and get our 3rd bolt installed. You have to be a little bit of a contortionist to do this. It's tough because the whole thing is only by feel. You cannot see the hole there, and you can't see where the bolt's going. All right, so we'll go ahead, there we go. Go ahead and do the best you can to get that caught a couple threads. I'm going to go ahead and use our gear wrench. Reach it down inside. And go ahead to start and snug that down. Once we have this back bolt snug down, we're going to finish up by snugging down the 2 front ones here. Here's a side tip on the ECU. It's extremely hard to get that lower bolt in between the fuse block or fuse box and this unit itself. The upper hole is slotted, which is virtually useless to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to slot this lower hole. By slotting this hole, we can simply install the bolt, slide this down onto the bolt, and then secure both of them. Now, it's extremely tough to go ahead and get your hand down between the fuse box here and the ECU. So what we're going to do is remove this upper bolt here. We're going to install lower bolt. Take your ECU, lower that down into place. I just slid the ECU down onto that slotted hole. I'm going to line up the upper one here and get our bolt installed there. Go ahead and snug these down. So we get our ratchet down inside there. And go ahead and snug this down. Go ahead and snug that down. Now our ECU is all set. That's fixed. Let's go ahead and move to the top of the box here, and I'm going to install the 2 bolts on our fuse block. Go ahead and get these 2 started by hand, and we'll go ahead and snug those down. Install your ECU connectors here. Now on the connectors, you have the little bulkhead latches here. So you want to make sure that those are pushed all the way to the top. Line this up. Push that in. Now you're only going to get to a certain point, and then as you fold this over and latch it, it will actually suck in the connector and lock it into place. We're going to repeat the process for this one as well. But you also want to pay attention to the harness here. We want to make sure that this bracket is flipped around properly, as this needs to get fit into the fender well as you're doing this. Bring this connector over, line that up. Grab this here, and you can actually watch these 2 tabs. Sucks them in. and it's going to go just beyond this little lock tab here, so you know that these two connectors are secured. We have a harness bracket down below here. That's a single 10mm bolt. Goes in down here. So I want to go ahead and get that installed. Go ahead and snug that down. That bracket is for this harness connector over here. Now our bracket right here, I want to position this. There is a stud on one side, and then we have the hole on the other side for that 10mm bolt. So position that harness, push that stud through, install the 10mm bolt to the right. Once you get that started, we'll go ahead and put a gear wrench on there and try and zip that down. And go ahead, once that bolt bottoms out, just give it a little bit more. You do want to make sure that that's good and tight. We're going to install our wire harness right here on that bracket that we had secured earlier. Just bring this up and slide it over onto that bracket. Push that down. Now we're going to go back into the wheel well, and where the stud is on this bracket, we're going to go ahead and put the 10mm nut back on that and tighten that down. Gonna install that nut. And you can use your impact driver if you want, or you can just use your gear wrench. Snug it down. Install your fender liner. What you want to do is basically just kind of tuck it up into place. Push the front one up and over. Bring the back around and tuck it inside the fender lip here. The lower portion of your fender liner is going to fit on the outside. Once you come up to this notch here, that's going to pop to the inside like so. So outside, inside, feed it around. And there's going to be normally two little plastic clips here that the fender liner will actually pop into. Go ahead and feed these into it. The fender liner should fit behind the lip of the front bumper. On the back section here, we have our plastic push pin. Line that up. Pop that into place. Let's go ahead and install our back fender splash guard. Let's go ahead and line this up. We have 3 Phillips head screws here. Let's go ahead and just get these started. Once we get these 3 started here, we have our 4th one on the back side. So we're gonna thread those in a little bit. We're not gonna snug them down. We just wanna make sure that they are started with several threads. Let's go ahead and move to the other side and install the 4th screw on the back side. Gently snug that down. With that anchored, we can now tighten down the 3 on the other side. Go ahead and install the 2 10mm bolts here and here to anchor the front portion of your fender liner. Our fender liner was damaged and was missing a screw here when we received the vehicle. If you have the screw here and you removed it, go ahead and install it now. Grab your wheel, go ahead and line it up, set it into place. going to start all of our lug nuts by hand. Once we have all these started, let's go ahead and snug them down. Let's go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 98 foot-pounds. You want to do this in a crisscross pattern. Install our cover here. There's just a little tabs here actually lock into over the edge of our ECU. Once we have that secured, we're going to install our fuse block here. Install our fuse block cover, and then we have this little cap here that comes down on the front side of our fuse box here. Go ahead and slide this down. Snap that on. And then we can go ahead and slide this back and over. Now I'm going to line up the back side of our forward mounted fuse box here with the bracket between the big box and the little box. That should automatically line up the bolt hole down below. So let's go ahead and install a bolt there. Go ahead and gently snug that down. Now with the forward mounted fuse block installed, get that front bolt started, and then we'll go ahead and snug that down. I'm going to grab your wire harness here. And there's a little tab that needs to pop into this little bracket on the back side of the forward mounted fuse box. So you're going to push that in, grab your connector, snap that together. You're going to hear and feel it lock in. And then there's a little insert here or locking tab that will insert here on the box as well. We're now going to install our radiator hose here. So we're going to push it into this clip. Pop that into place. Going to snake this around, feed it underneath our upper radiator hose. Push this into this clip here. Now this is going to run across and connect it to our upper portion of the radiator. Press that on. Go ahead and use your pliers to go ahead and move this hose clip down and into position. And once you have that secured, we're going to feed this down, and it goes into another clip down underneath. Go ahead and pop that in, make sure that's all secured, wrapping all the way around. Now right here between our washer reservoir and our expansion tank, our vehicle had a zip tie here, or a plastic tie. We actually found the original retaining button for it underneath when we disassembled it. Simply a plastic button that presses in like so. Or you can use a plastic wire tie again if that's what you need. Go ahead and lower that battery down into your battery tray. grab your bracket, install the 2 J hooks. The hooks will go down and hook into a battery bracket or the tray down below. Go ahead and feed the J bolt through the bracket. Do the same for the other side. You can use a regular ratchet or impact gun if you want, but you want to be careful. You do not want to over tighten this. The purpose of this bracket is simply to secure the battery in place. You do not want to over tighten it. You can crush the battery and cause damage. So how to check this here, you want to snug this down just pretty much when that bracket stops moving. Just give it a little bit more. You want to make sure that that secures the battery in place. Installation, install your positive side first. Drop that down, push our straps down here, and tighten down the nut here. Once you feel that snug down, give it a little bit more. Give that terminal a little wiggle back and forth. Make sure it does not spin. Install the ground terminal and do the same over here. Go ahead, loosen and remove our expansion tank cap here. Twist that counterclockwise, pop that off. Go ahead and grab a clean funnel, drop that into place. Now there is a max line, which is pretty much the mold line right here. We're going to use the appropriate coolant for this vehicle. We're going to fill up the expansion tank to that level. Now at this point right here, we're pretty much at that level. Remove your funnel, install your cap. Make sure that the tabs line up on the notches on the cap. Press it down and twist it on. Now you want to go ahead and start up the vehicle, take it for a road test, come on back and double check the level of your coolant here. Make sure that you are topped off to the max line, which is pretty much the mold line on the expansion tank. And at that point there, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.